It's time once again for everybody to come aboard that one and done train as we make our way across the country, previewing all 32 conferences. Eventually, we were going to have to rise up to the Summit League, that is, with four different regular season champions in 4 seasons who will ascend to the top and be king of the summit. We'll break it all down right now. Welcome to One and Done. Bienvenidos a todos a One and Done, your fast break of college basketball information. My name is Jay Heinrich. I'm the conductor of the aforementioned One and Done train, joined tonight by the man known around here as El Capitan himself. He's the captain of the One and Done ship at MC Holland 34 on X, the OG Money Mike, the Comet Chaser himself. That's Mr. Mike Holland. Mike, is Summit League night. What it do?
It's Summit League night, and we're live for this conference preview. So, we've been doing some pre-recordings, dropping those, but we're trying to continue our tradition of live Sunday shows. So if you haven't checked out some of our other previews that we've done, go back and check those out. We got a lot working, man. And yeah, the Summit League, you're going to talk about some realignment. Probably going to be a shorter show, but it's a conference that has had a lot of successful teams recently. So yeah, let's dive right into this thing, my man.
Yeah, Mike is right. If you're watching live, we definitely appreciate you. But you might also be watching on YouTube a little bit later on the FSAN basketball channel. Leave us a comment if you are. Hit the subscribe button either way. And if you're listening on one of your favorite streaming services like Spotify or Apple Music, we are there as well. So leave us a 5-star review and follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms. But Mike, we're not here for all that. We're here for the Summit League, right? It's Summit League night, who finished 22nd out of 31 conferences in KenPom's strength of conference metrics last year. North Dakota State won the league by 2 games. And as I sort of alluded to in the open, 4 straight years with a new champion, my regular season champion, that is. So North Dakota State also went ahead and got themselves that automatic NCAA bid, the double-double, as we call it around here, regular season and conference tournament champions as well. That was good enough to earn them a 14 seed, bowing out in the opening round to Mr. March himself, Tom Izzo, and the Michigan State Spartans. So, Mike, nothing's changing here in terms of what we're going to say right now at this point in the show. Almost all of these conferences that we preview, realignment, especially early on in the offseason when we're talking about some of these, lower mid-tier type of conferences, the Summit League looks a little bit different, just like most of these other conferences. Denver moving to the WCC. Now the Summit League is an 8-team conference. So make sure you hit all those buttons as you follow us all offseason long. It's Summit League night tonight, though. And Mike, let's start with the low tier. We do have our low, mid, and high tiers. You know our world famous tiers, Mike. And if this is your first time hanging out with us here on One and Done, I like to try to be positive. It's not just the low, it's a foundation of the conference, right? We got a few teams down here in the foundation in the Summit League. And it's going to start with North Dakota, those Fighting Hawks, who went 10-6 in the conference last season, but we're forecasting them to take a little bit of a slip here.
Yeah, it's been quite a roller coaster. Coach Paul Souther and his Hawks, man, it's just been up and down during his tenure, and unfortunately, it looks like we're going back down the roller coaster here, Jay, because they're losing a lot of talent, man. Like guards Grayson Ullman, he transferred out. He was second team All-Summit last year. Eli King was actually the Summit Defensive Player of the Year. He is out of eligibility. They also lost wing Garrett Anderson to eligibility. That was a guy that averaged double figures for them. So I mentioned King being the Summit League Defensive Player of the Year. Well, they weren't even great when they had him defensively. So when you factor that in and you're losing a lot of offensive firepower, they're going to be a really young team this coming year. I think one guy to kind of keep an eye on is guard Zach Kraft. He is back, averaged 8 points, shot 40% from 3. I just see them taking a lot of lumps and struggling to be competitive unless they have a breakout star in the wings, which is certainly possible. But yes, I do think this is going to be quite the fall here. And then the only other team that we have down here in the foundation tier, or the low tier, are the Kansas City Roos, one of the best mascots in all of college basketball. But last year was not one of the best seasons. They were 1-15 in the conference. UMKC fired Coach Menzies mid-year, and they're going to turn the program over to a familiar name in CBB circles, Mark Turjan. Yes, Mark Turjan is going to be coaching in the Summit League. Yes, that Mark Turjan, the same Mark Turjan that was at the programs like Maryland, Texas A&M, and the D1 level where he had a ton of success. I mean, he hasn't coached since the 21-22 season, but obviously he has a resume that speaks for itself. 63% win percentage. He's got 476 D1 wins and 10 trips to the NCAA tournament out of 24 years at some pretty tough programs. So, yeah, man, this is obviously news in itself, man. But I do think it's going to take a little bit more than just a 1-year turnaround, Jay.
It might. It could take more than 1 year, or you get a guy who knows how to get the most out of players and has done so at a pretty high level his entire coaching career. Like you said, Mike, 63% win percentage as a head coach at the D1 ranks. Jalen Smith is going to do his best to contribute to that. He averaged 9 points and 3 assists, shooting 34% from 3 last year for East Tennessee State. He's at Kansas City now. He's going to try to help coach get this thing turned around even quicker. I mean, I guess we didn't just want to have one team down in the low tier because Kansas City does. Yeah, I get what they did last season, but it wouldn't shock me if they were competitive once Turgeon gets this thing rolling, and that could be as early as this season. So down there, I thought we had a few teams down there in the low tier. When we were getting into this, nope, 2 teams and the foundation of this conference. That's North Dakota and Kansas City. Do you think that do we get it right? We'd love to hear from you in the comments on any of the platforms you're listening on. So make sure you hop in there and let us know. Darren is with us live, actually. This is not we're live, my man.
Live on a Sunday.
One of the OGs in the chat. We'd love to hear from you, whether that's right here at One and Done College Basketball, right here on FSAN Basketball Channel. We have at One and Done CBB over on X, of course, Apple and Spotify and other podcast platforms. Make sure you follow us everywhere. That's the low tier, Mike. That is the low tier. 2 teams. 8. When you get an 8-team conference, Mike, sometimes you're going to have smaller tiers, and that's okay. I like the fact that we have more teams in the mid and high tier. So let's move right on up to the old mid tier right here in the Summit League, and it's going to start with Oral Roberts. Mike, the Golden Eagles, rough times continued for those Eagles under first-year coach Corey Barnett.
Yeah, and they couldn't hit a shot last year. I do like how Coach Barnett approached the offseason. You go 4-12, but you missed a ton of shots, right? They just weren't efficient. But I think that what he's done this offseason is going to make them pretty competitive. So Connor Dow is back. He's a senior forward. He was at Oklahoma State a couple of years ago. He averaged 12.5 points, 4 boards as a Big Dipper. So he was able to kind of get the minutes that he was looking for. So we saw his game expand and make him be able to put up some stats. He's going to be one of the better players in the conference. I'm expecting a big breakout year from him. And then you look at what's coming back. I mean, the second most minutes percentage in the conference returning. So you always love to see that. Retention, always a good thing in college basketball. I know you can turn your roster over every single year if you want it to, but we see there's a higher success rate with teams that keep, 50+% of their players. So higher retention in the conference usually leads to some success. And one guy to look out for that's actually coming in that was not retained is Amir Robinson from Nevada, a very intriguing transfer. Very effective and limited action over there in the Mountain West, but they're going to step into a much bigger role for ORU. I do think this team takes a step forward on both ends of the floor. The second team that we have here in the mid-tier is the Omaha Mavericks. They were right smack dab in this mid-tier last year when they finished up 8-8. The Mavericks and Coach Chris Crutchfield came back down to earth last season. They had that magical 24-25 season where they made the tournament, lost to St. John's, and then a lot of their players exited that had a lot of success. Markel Sutton ended up going last year to LSU. White went to Baylor. So you lose those guys to the P5. They're always, those guys are always hard to replace. So I'm not expecting them to get all the way back up to the top this year, but I do think they're going to be competitive once again. It also helps when you get your point guard returning in Grant Stubblefield. He averaged 9 points and a little over 3 assists per game. What's going to be around them is going to be a lot of transfers and a lot of freshmen. Jay, I don't mind an interconference transfer, a guy that's done a little bit in this conference. That's Chris Dockery from Kansas City. He was a pretty productive player in the league last year.
It hurts to have some people on your roster, even if they're not familiar with the other players on your roster per se, from a teammate perspective, at least understanding what it takes to play in the league. So, absolutely, Dockery, a nice pickup here for Omaha within the conference. And not a lot of continuity overall on this team, but some guys with some upside for sure, Mike. And then you got Coach Crutchfield doing what he does. He's going to get the most out of him. Probably another 500 type of season, right? Could they take a step forward? Possibly. Someone that is taking a step back, though, after going 14-2 in this conference last
Uh-oh.
year, North Dakota State. That's right.
Oh.
Do not adjust your dial, the volume on your headset, whatever it might be. That's right. We have North Dakota State right here in the
It's going to stir some things up.
mid tier. We are not projecting perennial power North Dakota State to challenge for the league crown. Obviously, Coach Richmond has been fantastic during his 12-year tenure, the dozen years he spent right there with the Bison. Fantastic. But we have to take a look at the amount of talent that's just exodus left this campus. You talk about Carson, who was first team All Summit, Wheeler Thomas, who was second team All Summit, Anderson, Federson, others heading out of campus as well. It's just tough to feel like they're going to repeat that same sort of success. So we've got them in the mid tier, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of talent, man. And so, the one thing you look at, and kind of like Omaha, they're getting their starting point guard back, Andy Stefanowicz. He averaged 9 points, nearly 5 assists, shot 38% from three. So you love that. I think it's one of the higher floor teams. I guess it wouldn't be a surprise if they showed up at the end of the year toward the top of the standings. I just, when we talk about these high tier teams, we just feel a lot better about their upside. The upside on the team, we're going to have to see some guys potentially break out that we haven't really seen much from. This team only has one projected senior on the roster and a bunch of guys that haven't shown us much. So, you look at Melvin Bell. He was at San Jose State last year. He played 33 minutes per game, but he carried a sub 100 offensive rating. So he's definitely got to improve. You do like that he's obviously played minutes. So we'll see where that works out. And then you got some guys that, we're on Power 5 teams coming in. We just don't know what they're going to do. I mean, Jack Robinson comes in from Wisconsin. Josiah Harper comes in from Maryland. So one of those two guys could be a breakout. But for now, I think, we're in early July, right? I think we just have to kind of tamper expectations till we see it on the floor. But this is probably one. There's always that one team, right, where we look back and we say, like, man, we should have just trusted the coach and the program. We had a pretty successful hit rate last year, Jay, but, every now and then, you got to look at it and say, like, they got to replace some dudes on this team.
It's not always about the X's and the O's, Mike. You got to have the Jimmies and the Joes. And a lot of those Jimmies and Joes left campus for the Bison after last season. We'll see if Coach can get it done for North Dakota State, who joins Omaha and Oral Roberts in our mid tier of the Summit League Power Rankings. Excellent stuff as always, Mike. Hoping all of the breadheads out there, the whole One and Done universe, have hit all of those buttons wherever they're taking in the One and Done podcast here with FSA and basketball. Shout out to all of you if you're joining us for the first time, if you're joining us for the 170,000th time, like our guy Darren in the chat. As either way, we definitely appreciate the love. Thanks for making the click and thanks for hanging out with us. We're doing this all off season. We're covering all 32 conferences. And once the season hits, we're doing DFS shows. We don't call Mike the Comet Chaser for nothing. We got our Sunday news and notes shows. We're bringing you all the heat all year long. So make sure you hang out with us on One and Done. Mike, this is what the people are here for. They're here for the high tier. So let's not make them wait any longer. So we got 8 teams in the conference, right? So there's 5 teams on the screen. Divide by 17, carry the 2. 3 teams in the high tier, Mike. And if you would have told me before the show started, hey, there's 3 teams in the Summit League high tier and North Dakota State isn't one of them, maybe, I would have said it's a little crazy, but that's how we have it right here on One and Done. We do have 3 very deserving teams in our high tier, starting with St. Thomas, the Tommies. That's right. And speaking about programs and a coach that just seems to get it done, Johnny Tower posted his 3rd straight 20-plus win season with St. Thomas. That is extremely impressive. Pretty incredible because, it's not like this is some team that has roots in D1 college hoops, right? 6 years old when the season rolls around in terms of D1 and Coach
Yeah.
Tower making it happen for the Tommies.
Yeah, and when you have this type of success, you expect guys to, head out to the Power Five ranks, man, and that trend continues, and they still have success. So you look at it, Nolan Menasale, he's going to Marquette. He was kind of like that do-it-all Swiss Army knife at the forward spot. So he's out the door. He's kind of following the path that we've seen over the past couple of years. It was Kendall Blue went to Nebraska, and then Andrew Rohde we saw leave for Wisconsin. So this is a team and a program that's kind of used to losing their best player. But even with that talent headed out the door, there's still plenty of talent within the program, Jay. I mean, point guard Austin Hero, yes, Tyler Hero's brother. He shot 38% from three last year, only averaged 5.5 points, but averaged 3.5 assists per game. Can do a little bit of everything on both ends of the floor. Also returning as one of the most effective players in the conference, forward Carter Berkey. Berkey posted an absurd 138.5 offensive rating last year. He led the league in effective field goal percentage, and he was at the center spot, shooting 44% from three. So this is obviously one of the best players in the conference. Another guy that has a pretty familiar last name like Hero is Momcilovic. Luka Momcilovic. That's Milan's brother. He redshirted last year, so obviously some family ties there to really, really one of the best college basketball players returning in the country. And then, you get a P5 transfer from DePaul, Jeremy Lawrence, kind of a breakout situation to look out for here, Jay.
They're going to be able to score at will. I don't think that that's really an issue. But what makes me think that the floor is the high tier no matter what is they're always solid defensively under Coach Tower. Like, you can just hang your hat on that.
Oh, yeah.
So not only are they going to, shut you down, but they're going to score the basketball as well. So that's the main reason that we have St. Thomas in our high tier in our Summit League power rankings. And Mike, we also have South Dakota, the Coyotes. That's right. Here's the upside swing that we want to take in this conference right here. This is probably the spot when I said, hey, if there's three teams in the high tier, North Dakota State's probably one of them, right? But instead, swap them out and swap in the Coyotes of South Dakota. Here we are with Coach Eric Peterson's Coyotes, who have come close to breaking through the last 2 years.
Yeah, and look, the roster is completely overhauled. Only a few guys returning. They also have a familiar name, Vince Buzelis. Matas Buzelis' brother is obviously in the NBA. Showed a lot of promise last year, did struggle with efficiency, but I think he's on track for a breakout season. I like what they added in the portal. You get an experienced transfer guard in KJ Thomas from UTEP. He started 24 games in Conference USA last year, and I think he's going to find operating space much easier in this league. And you have all these other high upside transfers, like center Josh Townley Thomas coming in from Creighton, guard Josiah Dotzler. He comes in from St. Louis, also started his career at Creighton. He's had a lot of injury history, so that's really what's kind of kept him on the sidelines. And then Iowa State transfer and Cade Kelderman. Guys that, hey, you get one or two of these guys to break out, right? From, they had P5 pedigree, and now you're really cooking here. So, look, this is the high upside, low floor candidate that we're going with here. Could easily, at the end of the season, look back and say, okay, they really didn't put it all together. We trusted, we didn't trust, North Dakota State in their program to do what they do, but sometimes you got to take swings like this. And I think that's what we're doing with South Dakota here.
No doubt about it. They're going to add, is this the team right here, Mike? Again, we like to hang our hats sort of on getting that champion in that high tier. Does South Dakota feel like a team to you? Obviously, we have them in the high tier.
Yeah.
This is a team that you feel like can do this thing for the long haul?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've kind of seen, right? They're just knocking on the door. It's right there, right? If they can get one or two of these guys to kind of push forward, I think that's what takes them from the mid-tier and jumps them up into the high tier. And a team that's been up in the high tier is South Dakota State, who's the final team that we have up here with St. Thomas and South Dakota. I mean, it's a rival, right, of South Dakota. And, they've kind of run things in this conference, right? Coach Brian Peterson, he did have the tough task of following a long line of successful coaches. Right. Eric Henderson, now at New Mexico. Before that, TJ Otzelberger, Iowa State, one of the best coaches in the country. Scott Nagy, who's now at SIU. All these guys had major success. Unfortunately, last year was their first losing season since 2010. Oh, look, 7-9, right? So they were kind of right there in the mid-tier. The good news is the good times are expected to come back. At least when you look at this roster, you're like, oh my goodness, they're going to be able to score the basketball. Kalen Gary jumped into the portal. He's the starting point guard, man. He averaged nearly 11 points, shot 37% from three. He entered the portal with a do not contact tag, but actually ends up back. And he's going to pair with Joe Saylor to make a devastating backcourt duo. Saylor averaged 14.5 points, 2.5 assists, shot 41% from three. Those two guys are going to form, the best backcourt in the conference. And, you look at what they bring in the portal. I like this addition of Miles Thompson. He posted 11 and 6 last year from SIUE. They got this kid, Jesse Van Kalsbeek. Video game numbers. I know it's NAIA, but video game numbers. If he gets just a little bit of that to transfer here, could be a real X factor in this league.
We talked about Gary and Saylor in the backcourt. This is the type of team, if they want to take that leap forward from where they were last year, get sort of back to that relevance in the conference, you got to have depth in your backcourt. And EJ Ryan's coming in from Western Michigan, started 31 games in the MAC. Going to give the Jackrabbits a little bit of that depth, a little bit of that experience that you need at any level. But EJ Ryan's could be an X factor for this team as well. Jesse Van Kalsbeek, man, yeah, it's video game numbers. Is it attainable even at this level in the Summit League? It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch the Jackrabbits try to win this conference. But South Dakota, the Coyotes, not very often do you have two teams from South Dakota that say South Dakota, and you're like, they could win a conference. Yeah. But right here in the Summit League, it's happening. The Jackrabbits and the Coyotes, both in our high tier, I should say, joined by the Tommies of St. Thomas. In the mid-tier of the Summit League, North Dakota State, Omaha, and Oral Roberts. And then down in the foundation of our Summit League rankings, Kansas City, the Roos. That's right, the Roos. The Roos is not in. This is just the ROOS, the Roos. Kansas City Roos and North Dakota. Big fall down for North Dakota this year. We are forecasting. Excellent stuff as always. Make sure you hit all those buttons to follow along on our journey all off season long and well into the season as well, no matter what platform you are catching the show on. We definitely want to give a shout out to Eric the Blue behind the scenes, getting everything ready. And then our guy, Nate C. Hustle, pushing the buttons tonight as well. Mike, the Summit League is going to be extremely exciting. A little bit of a shakeup at the top that we are forecasting. And of course, we know that our tiers are rock solid. Everything is perfect. You don't even have to come back and double check our things. No. We know it's going to be close enough, though, right? So, but we'd love to hear from you either way. We've been seeing some comments on the shows as we've been going along. We definitely appreciate that. Appreciate the feedback. Appreciate your insight out there in the one and done universe. So make sure you hit all the buttons. Hop in the comments, whatever you got to do. 5-star reviews for your broskies and basketball right here on One and Done. If you're watching with us live, and we hope you are, and even if you're not, we got Big South and America East coming up soon. So make sure you're following us on all the channels, all the platforms, so you don't miss one single solitary second of our college basketball coverage. Tonight, right here in studio with me, sharing your viewing and listening devices, the man known around here as El Capitan himself. He's the captain of the One and Done ship at MC Holland 34 over on X, the OG Money Mike. That is Mr. Mike Holland. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and tell somebody that you love them. Until next time, this has been the Summit League Preview, and my name is JAYHEINRICH. Come again. We'll see you.